In February 2008, Kosovo declared independence from Serbia. The Guardian published an article about the historical background of the situation. I will read the article and comment. There are many things I agree with the author, but there are also things I disagree with. In some cases, the author didn't give enough explanation. Who is the author? This is his biography published under the article. Noel Malcolm is a senior research fellow at All Souls College, Oxford. He is the author of Kosovo, A Short History. Kosovo is Serbia, ask any historian, read the unlikely placards waved by angry Serb demonstrators in Brussels on Sunday. This is rather flattering for historians. We don't often get asked to adjudicate. It does not, however, follow that any historian would agree, not least because historians do not use this sort of eternal present tense. I do agree because historians do not talk about the present, only the past. The present is left to politicians to argue about. Historians usually follow the 20-year rule. They talk only about the things that happened 20 years ago. Anything that happened in more recent years is not considered history. Why 20 years? It is considered that one human generation lasts 20 years. After 20 years, people have better insight in what happened. There is historical distance that helps historians be more objective. Historian Tacitus established sine ira et studio motto. English, without anger and passion. This means that historians are forbidden to get angry or passionate about the topic. In theory, historians are neutral observers. In reality, historians are still humans and get influenced by their environment. History is not exact science, so people can interpret the same events in different lights. History for the Serbs started in the early 7th century, when they settled in the Balkans. Their power base was outside Kosovo, which they fully conquered in the early 13th century, so the claim that Kosovo was the cradle of the Serbs is untrue. Indeed, Serbs moved to the Balkans in the 7th century. The term power base can mean anything. If we take that Serb power base was Ras, Serbian medieval capital, then indeed the power base was outside Kosovo. Serbs controlled parts of Kosovo before the 13th century. I think author should have mentioned that. Serb historians do not say that Kosovo was the cradle of the Serbs. They say Kosovo is the cradle of Serbian state and the church. Town Peć in province Kosovo is the seat of Serbian Patriarch. All the heads of Serbian church are proclaimed in Peć. Imagine if Bishop of Canterbury cannot go to Canterbury freely. How would members of Church of England feel about that? Town Prizren in Kosovo was royal capital of Emperor Dušan. Didn't I mention that Ras was the capital? Serbs changed capitals several times in the history. This was done due to changed circumstances. In 1389, Kosovo battle between Serbs and Ottoman Empire shaped the Serbian future. Not mentioning this battle is huge oversight of the author. Modern Serbhood is based on the legacy of Kosovo battle. Kosovo battle has huge importance for Serbs. It is true that Kosovo is the cradle of Serb identity. What is true is that they ruled Kosovo for about 250 years until the final Ottoman takeover in the mid-15th century. Churches and monasteries remain from that period, but there is no more continuity between the medieval Serbian state and today's Serbia than there is between the Byzantine Empire and Greece. It is true that Serbs ruled whole Kosovo for about 250 years. That's what verified history says. The problem with early Serb history, 7th to 12th century, is that there are few sources. The gaps in the Balkan history are huge. Sometimes it is unclear who controlled which region. It is possible that Serbs controlled Kosovo, or at least part of Kosovo, during this period. One can find huge disagreements between historians about the early medieval Balkan borders. I think the author downplays the importance of monasteries for Serbs. Serb widows and widowers often became nuns and monks. Until 19th century, monasteries were the only places to provide education for Serb children. Some of the most important Serb monasteries are in province Kosovo. Devič, Gračanica, Visoki Dečani are among the most sacred monasteries for Serbs. Now, Kosovo Albanians claim that these monasteries were in fact built by Albanians. This is rewriting history. The author failed to mention that Albanians destroyed a huge number of churches and monasteries in 1999 and 2004. Would Albanians destroy the churches and monasteries if they truly were built by them? The author is right that there is no continuity between medieval Serbia and modern Serbia. In 1459, Ottoman Empire conquered the last remnants of Serbia. Serbia was erased from the map. In 1817, when the Principality of Serbia was established, Serbs had to start building the state from the ashes. Kosovo remained Ottoman territory until it was conquered by Serbian forces in 1912. Serbs would say liberated, but even their own estimates put the Orthodox Serb population at less than 25%. The majority population was Albanian and did not welcome Serb rule, so conquered seems the right word. The 1912 events Serbs see as liberation. Serb historians do use the word conquered. The author should have said that Albanians see the 1912 as occupation. Serbs conquered Kosovo in order to liberate it. In Serb history books, Kosovo was both conquered and liberated. Estimations about Serb population in Kosovo in 1912 vary. Saying less than 25% can be misleading. It is true that Albanians were ethnic majority in Kosovo in 1912. At best, Serbs made a third of the population. They might have made 25%. But this wasn't always the case. Serbs used to be majority in Kosovo. According to 1455 data, only 1% of Kosovo population had Albanian names. As ethnic Serb, I would never give Albanian name to my child. Ethnic Albanians would never give Serbian names to their children. Over the next centuries, the percentage of Albanians in Kosovo population grew. In late 19th century, Albanians made about half of the population. According to 2007 estimations, Albanians make 92% of the Kosovo population. I will read sentence by sentence and comment. But legally, Kosovo was not incorporated into the Serbian kingdom in 1912. It remained occupied territory until some time after 1918. This is very vague. What was the legal status of Kosovo between 1912 and 1918? In May 1913, the Treaty of London was signed. This marked the end of First Balkan War, 1912-1913. Ottoman Empire withdrew from the conference before signing the document. In August 1913, the Treaty of Bucharest was signed and marked at the end of Second Balkan War. The Treaty of Bucharest gave Kosovo to Serbia. Serb historians see Kosovo as part of Serbia since 1913. Legally speaking, it is a rather interesting situation. In 1914, the World War I started, so Serbia didn't have time to go over legal issues. Then finally, it was incorporated not into a Serbian state, but into a Yugoslav one. And with one big interruption, the Second World War, it remained part of some sort of Yugoslav state until June 2006. This is very misleading part. In 1918, Serbia was erased from the map. New country was established as Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. Call it semantics, but it was not Kingdom of Serbia, Croatia and Slovenia. Legally speaking, after 1918, Serbia does not exist. Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes changed its name to Yugoslavia in 1929. During World War II, Yugoslavia fell apart. Between 1941 and 1945, Yugoslavia does not exist. The Axis partitioned Kosovo. South Kosovo was given to Bulgarians. Bigger part of Kosovo was given to Albania under Italian control. There was no independent Kosovo during World War II. The author failed to mention that Yugoslav republics were formed in 1945. Republic of Serbia exists since 1945 as part of Yugoslavia. Since 1945, Serbia had legal borders even though Serbia wasn't independent. The same applies to Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro and Macedonia. In the 1990s, when declaring independence, Yugoslav republics honored the 1945 borders. In 1945, Kosovo is part of Serbia. Until the destruction of the old federal Yugoslavia by Milosevic, Kosovo had a dual status. It was called a part of Serbia, but it was also called a unit of the federation. In all practical ways, the latter sense prevailed. Kosovo had its own parliament and government, and was directly represented at the federal level alongside Serbia. It was in fact one of the 8 units of the federal system. The author is not lying, but he is vague enough so people can misunderstand the situation. And some of his comments are rather simplified. Yugoslavia wasn't destructed by Milosevic alone. It is easiest to blame one person for a very complex situation. Nationalism was present among all Yugoslav nations. Add financial crisis and fall of communism to that and you get imminent death of Yugoslavia. I highly doubt that Yugoslavia would survive even without Milosevic. Brotherhood and unity was the biggest crap we had to endure. Kosovo never had dual status. It is autonomous province of Serbia. Serbia has 3 parts: Vojvodina, Central Serbia and Kosovo. In 1968, communists gave Vojvodina and Kosovo a higher level of political autonomy. Surprisingly, Central Serbia never got such status. Other republics like Slovenia and Montenegro never had autonomous provinces. The biggest question is why. There is belief that communists wanted to create 2 new republics out of Vojvodina and Kosovo. And I think they would have succeeded if communism survived. Serbs would have rebelled if anyone tried to proclaim such republics. Instead, communists gave ridiculously high levels of autonomy to Vojvodina and Kosovo. I always believed that autonomous statuses of Vojvodina and Kosovo undermined the unity of Serbia. Recently, I read different opinion online by one Croat. He said that Serbia wanted to establish autonomous provinces, Vojvodina and Kosovo, to have more votes in the federation. Yugoslavia would be seen as 8-member federation, 6 republics, plus 2 autonomous provinces. According to the Croats' opinion, Serbs would have direct control over votes from Serbia, Vojvodina and Kosovo. He then said that Serbia had huge influence in Montenegro, Macedonia and Bosnia. This left only Slovenia and his Croatia to stand against Serb supremacy. This would mean that Serbs sacrificed Kosovo and endangered Vojvodina so they could spoil the lives of Croats. The truth is that in 1968 Serbs had no say in the decision. Tito was still alive. Alexander Ranković was the main Serb communist politician. He was removed from power in 1966. I cannot imagine how Serbs could have forced Tito to give more autonomy to Vojvodina and Kosovo. Today, some Albanians claim that Kosovo was part of Yugoslavia and not Serbia. But the last version of Yugoslavia ended in 2006 when Montenegro separated from Serbia. Then from whom did Kosovo declare independence in 2008? In 2008, there was no Yugoslavia. If Kosovo wasn't part of Serbia, then they would have become independent in June 2006 and wouldn't have to declare independence in February 2008. Both Kosovo and Vojvodina had its own parliaments and governments. In fact, Vojvodina still has its own parliament and government. Journalists often make a mistake and claim that Milosevic abolished autonomous provinces. In fact, he only reduced their autonomy to 1968 levels. This enraged Albanians and led to 1998-1999 war. Almost all the other units have now become independent states. Historically, the independence of Kosovo just completes that process. Therefore, Kosovo has become an ex-Yugoslav state, as any historian could tell you. The last sentence is just wrong. Kosovo cannot become ex-Yugoslav state because it was never a Yugoslav state. Even people who are pro-independence cannot say that Kosovo became ex-Yugoslav state. There are only 6 states that can be called ex-Yugoslav states. Calling Kosovo ex-Yugoslav state is just anachronism. I also have to notice that the author avoided mentioning the 1998-1999 Kosovo War and NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. Readers unfamiliar with the subject would assume that there was no fighting. Since UK recognizes the independence of Kosovo, it's no wonder that Oxford researcher would take the same stance. He presents Kosovo independence as inevitable, as normal process. As any historian could tell you, implies that all historians share the same views. And that cannot be further from truth. You cannot find 2 historians that agree 100% with one another. For example, I think that bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a war crime. Many historians would disagree with me. And that's the beauty of history.